Today we're going to be talking about, should you pursue being an entrepreneur? Should you not? What should be the best choice for you? I'm going to share my experience as far as why I decided to become an entrepreneur, growing up with ADHD and dyslexia, why I decided to go that route. So let's go ahead and get started right after this intro. Welcome back, my Optimal Mind performers and my Optimal Mind leaders. And of course, for people who are new here, welcome. I am Dr. LeGrand Peterson. I treat patients with ADHD, but I also, guess what, have ADHD and dyslexia. Yes, it is rare to see a doctor that has ADHD, but I do, and I grew up with it and have learned lots of different strategies. So on this channel, if you are new here and haven't subscribed already, we talk everything about ADHD on this channel to help you achieve optimal mind performance. That's why it's called Optimal Mind Performance. So if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. What are you waiting for? As well as give us a like if you like this video. And of course, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. So let me first talk about my backstory, what happened with me with growing up with ADHD and with jobs. So pretty common for people who have ADHD, they struggle with holding a job. I had the same issue. It wasn't that I'd get fired, I just got bored all the time, having to go from job to job. And I also just frankly did not like having a boss. I didn't like being told what to do, and I couldn't handle that. And so whenever I got bored with the job, I go to a different job. So I had experienced lots of different types of jobs for myself, and this became a challenge of not sticking with something for me. But I really wanted to be my own boss, so I didn't have to have anybody tell me what to do. So I can kind of decide what my hours were, just have my leisure of how I wanted to earn money. The problem was, it was common and very expected for people to, of course, work for somebody, work for a corporation. It was just common because that was safe per se, to be able to have a consistent income. I got this from a lot of people, a lot of my, leaders and stuff like that. Not from my parents per se, because my dad was an entrepreneur, so I had that kind of entrepreneur gene. But still, I worked for people consistently, especially through high school and in college, because I still had to earn a living. That was the problem, really, is even though I wanted to be my own boss, I still had to earn a living, so I would still fall into, just like everybody else, working for somebody. And that's what you have to initially do, but I still hated having to work for somebody, because honestly I would just get bored of what I was doing, and because I felt like it was just a conveyor belt of doing the same thing over and over again. It wasn't exciting enough for me. And I go from landscaping to cooking to doing sales to I did all sorts of different types of jobs. But even though I wanted to be my own boss, I think really deep down inside all the time is I always wondered, can I do it on my own? Could I start my own business and do it on my own? And I think a lot of you also struggle with that question. Can I do this on my own? Because once you decide to be your own boss and be an entrepreneur, it's all on you. And that can be a stress in itself and a challenge for people. And that's what I was dealing with, is like, can I do it on my own? Is it possible? Can I make a living? Especially when I got married and started having kids, you have a lot more to have to provide for versus just worrying about yourself. Because I was having this consistent thing on the back of my mind, I feel like, could I do this on my own? I still need to make a living. So I still went from job to job. Even when I went through medical school, when I got out of medical school and I worked at a clinic, still was working for somebody. But I hated it. I absolutely hated working at a clinic, because I thought that, now I'm a doctor, so therefore I could do anything I want. I can treat patients how I want. That wasn't the case. When I worked for a clinic, they basically dictated how I should see patients, what I should do for treating, how I should do my charting, all these different kind of things, these different protocols that just was just too much for somebody who has ADHD. And I know for people who have ADHD, they struggle with challenges, not giving the creativity freedom that we need. That just makes it a roadblock for us. But I had this realization as I was experiencing that, and I was hating being a doctor. Here I've already spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars becoming a doctor, and then having the challenge of hating being a doctor was a really big roadblock for me. And I had this realization, why don't I just try it? Why don't I just try being my own boss and see how it goes. By this time, I was already married. I was having my first kid on the way. So this was maybe not the best time to pursue, starting my own business, starting my own practice, but I decided to just take the leap of faith and do it. But the whole plan was not to leave completely. I was still going to work part-time at the clinic at the same time trying to build my practice. So I'd start out slow, try to keep my overhead costs down. That was the plan. But the conflict I had, just like with any business that starts, it starts out really slow. It was really hard to build up a practice, getting enough patients to be coming in to have a consistent basis. But as I was learning all about marketing, and I had to basically wear a different hat of being a business person and not just a doctor, which I did find in myself. And this is probably just because of my dad, who's an entrepreneur. Also, a lot of his family and his dad were entrepreneurs as well. So this probably was ingrained in me, especially having ADHD. I felt like this type of a method, I was really liking being a doctor again. In fact, I really liked the business side just as much, if not more, than being the doctor. And it was just something that was so intriguing. I just loved how marketing worked, learning about different business strategies. These were all just really gave me a passion and fire that I was craving for and missing out when I was just trying to just work for other people or going through medical school and then working at a clinic. These were all just challenges that I just didn't like, and it wasn't what I signed up for. So eventually, just like pretty much after a year and a half being in that clinic, I left completely. It was even a bigger leap of faith. Because I was getting to the point where I really was hating where I was working. It was just too much stress, too much for me to be there. I decided to take the leap of faith of going full time with my practice. And it was the best decision I ever made. Even though it was scary, I had a newborn child, was married, and had to provide for a family. And making that leap of faith was a big challenge, but it was the best thing that I did, because then I really went full 100% for my business, and I haven't looked back ever since. Now, of course, there's challenges for any type of business. You might be like, oh, you're a doctor, so it worked for you. No, in my industry, there's not too many family doctors that are starting up new practices. They all now start working for hospitals because it's hard to be able to do that, especially right now during this whole crazy pandemic. Even a lot of my own colleagues have had to shut down their practice. Now, I haven't, because of the strategies that I learned, and sure, it's slowed down, but I've been able to survive through this. And if you're trying to contemplate whether you should become an entrepreneur, especially during this time, I would have you start looking into it. Don't hold back like I did. Try to look at things that you're passionate about. That's the first key, is to try to find something you're passionate about. Especially for people with ADHD, I feel like they have a good niche of becoming an entrepreneur. Why? Because you could become your own boss. And that's what I love about being my own boss. I could decide when I set my scheduled hours, when I work, how often I see patients, how often I decide to work on the business, or how often I work on marketing. I get to decide all that. Those are my decisions. It's all on me. That's the big stressor part. It's all on you, but you get to make those decisions yourself. And I feel like people with ADHD need to have that freedom of creativity to be able to do that, versus having someone else dictate everything that you do. Because I decided to take this leap of faith, I feel like, I love what I do now, and I can actually impact more people because of it. I want you to leave in the comment section below. If you're an entrepreneur, please put that in the comment section below. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur. And what are you an entrepreneur for? And for you people who are holding back, put in the comment section below of what is holding you back. Let's have this conversation going to kind of help each other out as far as when it comes to trying to be an entrepreneur when you have ADHD. And before you go, if you are new here, like I said, hit the subscribe button right over here. Check out these other videos on ADHD, and I will see you guys next time. And remember, you have an optimal mind. Dr. Legrand signing out. Thanks. Bye.